You ever notice how silence is louder than words? How ignoring someone brings out their true nature? You think staying quiet means peace, but all it does is give them a stage to expose themselves, to show you exactly who they are. You ever tried ignoring a snake? It doesn't stop it from striking, does it? If anything, it gets bolder. See, people are like that. You stay silent, and they think you're weak. You turn your back, and they think you're blind. You forgive, and they think you're a fool. But silence, oh, it's a beautiful weapon. Because when you stop reacting, when you stop chasing, when you stop explaining yourself, people get desperate. They start to reveal their real faces. The fake smiles drop. The masks slip. And suddenly you see them for what they are. Parasites, opportunists, liars who thrived on your attention, your kindness, your patience. And when that's gone, they panic. They start lashing out, trying to get a reaction, trying to get a piece of you, because without you, they're nothing. You ever notice how the ones who talked sweet turned bitter when they couldn't use you anymore? How the ones who called you brother or sister became strangers when you had nothing to offer? They were never real. They just played the part. But you ignored the signs, didn't you? Oh, you saw them. You just didn't want to believe them. See, that's your problem. You want to believe in people more than they deserve. You want to see the good in them, even when all they show you is darkness. And that's where you get hurt. That's where the knives slide in, right between the ribs of your trust. And what do? You shake your head. You pretend it didn't happen. You give them another chance, and another, and another, until one day you've got so many stab wounds in your back, you don't even feel it anymore. And you wonder why you're tired. You wonder why the world feels cold. It's because you keep warming up to people who were born to freeze you out. You keep giving pieces of yourself to those who never planned to give anything back. That's the tragedy. Not that they betrayed you, but that you let them. But hey, don't beat yourself up too much. You're not alone. This is the story of every fool who ever thought loyalty meant something in this world. Every soul who believed love could change a snake into a saint. Every heart that learned the hard way that just because you'd never do it to them doesn't mean they wouldn't do it to you. So what now? You gonna keep pretending? Keep acting like you don't see the truth? Or are you finally going to open your eyes and understand what's been happening right in front of you? The more you ignore, the more they expose themselves. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to chase them, don't have to argue, don't have to prove anything. Just sit back and watch. Watch how the ones who claimed they loved you suddenly don't have time for you. Watch how the ones who called you family only remember your name when they need something. Watch how the ones who smiled in your face start whispering the moment you turn your back. And the best part? You don't have to do anything. Just let them expose themselves. Let them show you the truth. But here's the part you won't like. The truth's hurts. It burns. It'll take everything you thought was real and crush it in front of your eyes. And you're gonna wanna run. You're gonna wanna close your eyes and pretend you never saw it. But you can't. Because once you see people for what they are, you can never unsee it. And that's when the real pain begins. See, it's not the betrayal that breaks you. It's the realization that you let them in, that you trusted them, that you ignored the warnings, that you saw the cracks, but convinced yourself it was just a trick of the light. That's what'll keep you up at night. But don't worry. Pain is a teacher. A cruel one, but a teacher nonetheless. And if you're smart, you'll learn. You'll learn that not everyone deserves your kindness. You'll learn that silence is power, that detachment is freedom, that the less you react, the more they reveal. And once you understand that, oh, you become dangerous. Because when you stop explaining yourself, people start fearing you. When you stop justifying, they start questioning themselves. And when you finally, truly don't care, that's when they realize they lost something they'll never get back. And that's the secret. You don't fight them. You don't chase them. You don't argue. You just let them burn themselves down while you walk away without a scratch. But I know you. I know you still have that little voice inside you, whispering, but maybe they'll change. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe I should give them another chance. Kill that voice, because they won't change. They never meant well. And they don't deserve another chance. Let them go. Watch from a distance as they expose themselves. Smile as the truth unfolds. And remember, the more you ignore, the more they expose themselves. And when that happens, when you see them for what they really are, don't get angry. Don't get sad. Just nod, because now you know. And knowing, that's power. They don't love you. They love what you do for them. They love how you make them feel. They love the power they have over you. But you're just a convenience, a momentary distraction, a useful tool until you aren't useful anymore. And you ignored it, didn't you? You ignored the signs, the way their words felt hollow, the way their loyalty was conditional, the way their presence depended on what they could take, not what they could give. Oh, you felt it. That little voice in the back of your head, the one that whispered, something's not right. But you silenced it. You drowned it out with hope, with excuses, with this desperate need to believe that maybe, just maybe, this time was different. But I get it. I really do. You wanted to believe in something pure, something real. You wanted to believe that loyalty still exists in this rotten world, that love means something more than just a transaction. But let me ask you, where are they now? When you needed them, where were they? When you fell, did they catch you? Or did they watch? Maybe they even enjoyed the show. Maybe they smiled while you struggled. Because you see, most people, they don't want you to win. They want you just strong enough to keep feeding them, just confident enough to keep entertaining them, but never enough to outgrow them. Because the moment you do, oh, that's when the mask comes off. That's when they start whispering behind your back, when they start turning others against you, when they do everything in their power to drag you back down to their level, and you let them. You played your role perfectly. You gave and gave, thinking they'd appreciate it. You sacrificed, thinking they'd reciprocate. You bent over backward, thinking they'd never let you break. But they did. And you learned the hard way that the ones you'd die for wouldn't even bleed for you. And that's when reality sets in, doesn't it? That's when the pain really hits. Not just because they hurt you, but because you let them. Because you trusted them. Because you thought they were different, but they weren't. They were just better at hiding their knives. So now what? You gonna keep pretending? Gonna keep hoping? Or are you finally ready to wake up? Because here's the truth, and it's gonna sting. The only reason they were ever close to you was because you ignored who they really were. The only reason they had the chance to betray you was because you let them in. And the only reason they still haunt your thoughts is because you refuse to let go. Let them go. Watch what happens when you do. Watch how they squirm. Watch how they panic when they realize they don't have access to your energy anymore. That's when the exposure begins. That's when their true nature spills out for everyone to see. Because people like them, they can't handle being ignored. They need control. They need your attention. And when you take that away, they unravel. They self-destruct. They show their hand. And that's when you win. Because the more you ignore, the more they expose themselves. And trust me, when they do, you won't even be mad anymore. You'll just shake your head and laugh. Laugh at how obvious it all was. Laugh at how blind you were. Laugh at how much power they thought they had over you. But the lesson? Oh, that stays with you forever. You start seeing the signs earlier. You stop making excuses. You stop handing out second chances like candy. And most importantly, you learn the golden rule. Not everyone deserves access to you. That's power. That's control. That's the moment you stop being the victim and start becoming the nightmare they never saw coming. Because when you go silent, when you stop explaining, when you stop reacting, that's when they realize they never had you in the first place. And nothing terrifies them more than that. So let them talk. Let them spread their lies. Let them twist the story to make themselves look innocent. It won't matter, because the truth has a funny way of revealing itself. And when it does, oh, they'll wish they never crossed you. But you'll be too busy winning to even care. And the best part, you don't even have to do anything. You just sit back, stay silent, and let them show you exactly who they are. You don't need to argue, don't need to defend yourself, don't need to explain what they did wrong, because people like them, they always reveal themselves in the end. It's just a matter of time. The cracks in their mask get wider. The lies they told to cover their tracks start to contradict each other. The same people they whispered their poison to, they'll turn against them too, because snakes always bite their own. And that's when the truth comes crawling out of the shadows. Slow, ugly, undeniable. That's when the people who once believed them start whispering instead of listening. That's when they start avoiding their name, stop answering their calls, start seeing them for what they really are. Because when you strip away the performance, when you take away the audience, what are they really left with? Nothing. Just a pile of broken masks and a long trail of burned bridges. And you just keep walking forward. Not because you forgave them, not because you're pretending it didn't happen, but because they no longer exist in your world. Because they never really did. See, that's the part that stings the most. That's what they can't handle, not the loss of you. No, they never cared about you. They cared about the way you made them feel. They cared about the control they had, the admiration they fed off, the validation they stole from your loyalty. And when you cut them off, it's like taking a leech off your skin. They don't just lose you, they lose their supply. And that is the real punishment. Because people like them, they don't survive without someone to drain. They need their games, their manipulation, their ability to twist words and rewrite history. But when they can't reach you, when you're just gone, they panic. They look for another host, another fool, another soul naive enough to fall into their trap. But it's never the same, and they know it. And you become untouchable. Because the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop explaining, the moment you stop caring, you win. No revenge necessary, no battles fought, no screaming matches, just silence. Because silence is the loudest answer you can ever give, and the more you ignore, the more they expose themselves. But here's the real test. Will you actually let go? Or will you keep looking back? Keep wondering what they're saying. Keep checking if they regret it. Because that's the trap, isn't it? You say you're done, but you still crave closure. You still want them to realize what they lost. You want them to feel the same pain they put you through. But let me tell you something. You're wasting your time. They won't feel it. They won't change. They won't suddenly wake up one day and become the person you thought they were. Because the truth is, they were never that person to begin with. You fell for an illusion, a version of them that only existed in your mind. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you can move forward. Because while you're stuck in the past, still hoping for a different ending, They're already looking for their next target. They don't sit around thinking about you. They don't replay memories in their head. They don't regret it, not in the way you want them to. The only thing they regret? Losing control over you. That's what eats them alive. That's what keeps them up at night. Not guilt, not remorse, powerlessness. And if you're smart, you won't give it back to them. You won't check in, won't leave the door open, won't entertain their fake apologies when they come crawling back, because they will. Oh, they always do. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, when they realize they can't replace what you gave them, they'll return with empty words, with crocodile tears, with rehearsed speeches about how they didn't mean it, how they made a mistake, how they miss you. And that's when you laugh. Because it's not you they miss. It's the control, the supply, the attention. But by then, you won't care anymore. Because by then, you'll finally understand what real strength looks like. And it's not in revenge, not in proving them wrong, not in making them suffer. No, real strength is in indifference. Real strength is in watching them crumble from a distance while you keep moving forward, untouched, unbothered, untouchable. And when that day comes, when they finally realize they can't hurt you anymore, they'll try one last trick. They'll paint you as the villain. They'll tell everyone you were the one who changed, that you became cold, that you were never really loyal. They'll twist the story, rewrite history, do everything they can to make themselves the victim, because the truth, it terrifies them. The truth that they lost you, not because you stopped caring, but because they exposed themselves, because you saw them. And once you see someone for who they really are, you can never unsee it. That's the lesson. That's the price of experience. That's the gift pain gives you. The ability to recognize the same demons in different faces. And trust me, you will see them again. They'll come in different forms, wear different masks, use different words. But you'll know, you'll see the signs. And this time, you won't ignore them. This time, you won't be fooled. This time, you'll walk away before they ever get the chance to hurt you. And that is true freedom. So stop waiting for closure. Stop waiting for them to understand. Stop waiting for the day they change, for the day they wake up and get it. They never will. And even if they do, even if they finally realize what they lost, it won't change what they did. It won't erase the scars. It won't bring back the time you wasted. So move on. Not for them, not to make a statement, not to prove anything, but for you. Because the truth is, the moment you stop caring, the moment you stop giving them a place in your mind, that's the moment they truly lose. That's the moment their power dies. And that is the moment you win. And when that happens, when you finally let go, when you finally stop looking back, oh, they'll feel it. They'll feel every ounce of the emptiness they tried to shove into you. and it'll eat them alive. Because the more you ignore, the more they expose themselves. And the more they expose themselves, the more everyone else sees what you always knew. And by then, you'll be too far ahead to even care. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to fight them, don't have to argue, don't have to waste another second proving yourself. You just detach. You just disappear. You just let them rot in the grave they dug for themselves. And the best part? They don't even realize what's happening at first. See? People like them. They think they're invincible. They think they can do whatever they want, betray whoever they want, manipulate, lie, twist, and still come out on top. Because for so long, they got away with it. They charmed their way out of consequences. They talked their way out of responsibility. They always had a backup plan, a way to slither out of accountability. But here's what they don't see coming. Time. Time is the great equalizer. Time exposes everything. Time wears down the lies, the masks, the illusions. Time strips away the performance until there's nothing left but the cold, ugly truth. And when that moment comes, oh, you won't even have to lift a finger. Because people like them, they always self-destruct. It's only a matter of when. At first, they'll act like nothing happened, like they don't care, like they never needed you anyway. They'll pretend to move on, pretend they're thriving, pretend your absence doesn't bother them. But oh, it does. It eats at them. Because deep down, they know. They know what they lost. And the silence, that's what drives them mad. Because silence is power. Silence is the thing they can't manipulate, can't twist, can't control. When you react, they still have a piece of you. When you explain, when you defend, when you argue, they win. Because it means they still matter. It means they still have access to your energy. But when you give them nothing, that's when the panic sets in. That's when the cracks start to show. That's when they start looking over their shoulder, wondering if people are starting to see them for what they really are. And guess what? They are. Because the thing about people like them, they don't just betray you, they betray everyone. It's in their nature. They can't help it. They thrive on manipulation, on deception, on feeding off the kindness of others. But eventually, they run out of people to use. Eventually, the bridges they burned lead to nowhere. Eventually, the lies catch up to them. And when that day comes, when they look around and realize they're alone, oh, that's when they'll remember you. That's when they'll start reaching out, pretending like nothing happened, acting like you should just pick up where you left off. And you won't even flinch, because by then, you'll have learned the most important lesson of all. Some people don't deserve closure. They don't deserve explanations. They don't even deserve your anger. They deserve nothing. Because nothing is the only thing that gets through to them. That's when you finally understand. Real revenge isn't about getting even. It's not about making them suffer, not about proving your worth, not about forcing them to see their mistakes. No, no. Real revenge is moving on. It's healing. It's becoming so untouchable, so unbothered, so free, that their entire existence becomes irrelevant to you. And trust me, they'll feel it. They'll feel it in the way the world stops listening to them, in the way people start questioning their stories, in the way they try to play the same games, but suddenly nobody's interested. They'll feel it when they realize they spent their entire life destroying others, only to end up with nothing left. Because people like them, they don't build, they don't grow, they don't create, they only take, only destroy, only feed off the energy of those around them. And once that's gone, once they've drained everyone dry, they have nothing, just the weight of their own emptiness. And you'll be long gone, stronger, wiser, unshakable. And one day, they'll look for you. Not because they love you, not because they changed, but because they need you. Because they need your light, your energy, your strength. But you won't be there anymore. And that's when they'll know. And that's where the real satisfaction comes in. Not from their downfall, not from seeing them struggle, not even from knowing you were right all along, but from the simple fact that you no longer care. Because that's what they never expected. They thought you'd always be there, always be waiting, always be holding on to the memory of what you thought they were. They thought they could come and go as they pleased, thought they could disappear when it was convenient and reappear when they needed something. They thought you would never be able to move on without them. But oh, how wrong they were. See, people like them, they don't just take your kindness for granted. They see it as weakness. They see your loyalty, your patience, your willingness to forgive. And they think it means they can treat you however they want and still have a place in your life. Because they've done it before. They've pushed boundaries, crossed lines, manipulated, lied, and still managed to slither their way back into your trust. And why? Because they knew you cared. They knew you had a heart. They knew you weren't the kind of person to just cut someone off and never look back. And they used that against you every single time, but not anymore. Because now you see them for what they are. Now you understand that some people only show up when they need something. Now you recognize the patterns, the manipulation, the way they twist words, play the victim, rewrite history to make themselves look innocent. And now, you don't play the game. You don't give them the reaction they crave. You don't engage in their little mind tricks. You don't waste another second explaining yourself to people who already know what they did, but don't care. Because that's the hardest pill to swallow, isn't it? The realization that they knew, that they weren't just careless, weren't just going through something, weren't just making a mistake. They chose it. They chose to hurt you. They chose to lie. They chose to betray you. And when you finally confronted them, what did they do? They minimized it, blamed you, acted like you were the problem for noticing. And that's when it hits you. They never respected you. Because if they did, they would have never put you in a position to question their loyalty in the first place. And if they did, they wouldn't have justified their actions, wouldn't have made excuses, wouldn't have tried to gaslight you into believing it was all in your head. But they did. And that tells you everything you need to know. So now you walk away, not with anger, not with resentment, not with a need to make them suffer, just with clarity. Clarity that they were never who you thought they were. Clarity that they never deserved you. Clarity that the only mistake you made was ignoring the red flags when they first started waving. And you won't make that mistake again, because now you see how this world really works. You see that some people only value you when they can use you. You see that loyalty is just a word to some, not a principle. You see that just because you would never do something doesn't mean others think the same way. And most importantly, you see that the best way to deal with people like that is to let them go. Let them destroy themselves. Let them play their little games with someone else. Let them keep pretending, keep lying, keep manipulating until they have nobody left. And trust me, that day will come. Because people like them, they always run out of victims. They always reach a point where nobody trusts them, nobody believes them, nobody wants them around. They end up exactly where they deserve, alone. Not because the world is cruel, not because people turned against them, but because they did it to themselves. And by then, you'll be so far ahead, so at peace, so completely detached from their existence that when you hear their name, you won't feel anger. You won't feel sadness. You won't feel anything, because you'll finally understand that they were nothing more than a lesson. And that lesson, it made you unstoppable, because now you know. You know that the more you ignore, the more they expose themselves. And now, you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to fight for your truth. You don't need to convince anyone of who they really are. Because time does that for you. Time always tells the truth. Time always reveals the masks. Time always shows people's true colors. And you just keep moving forward, because at the end of the day, that's the ultimate revenge. Living well, succeeding, thriving, ... And when they finally realize that they lost something irreplaceable, it'll be too late, because you're never looking back.